What a great way to start this video. Alright, so... Okay, 1 second. This is so dumb. Okay, so I'm sort of using you guys as therapy right now. And I hate doing this and like looking like a mess in front of you guys. I hate showing and admitting when there's something wrong. I hate it. So obviously for you guys that follow me on social media, you guys have seen that there's like something going on. I've been talking a little bit about it, but not really. So I'm sort of here to like explain what's been going on with my life for the last couple of days specifically, and then more in detail about the last, like about my whole life and my whole upbringing and stuff. Disclaimer, I'm about to talk about a lot of personal stuff about my family, as far as like for my family members and everyone close to me. I hope you guys don't care that I'm talking about this publicly. I have a really public life, and this is just like how it goes, I guess, and I'm choosing to share this, and it's my life, and it's about my mom, and it's something that I want to share with the world because I don't want anyone else to have to go through this alone or feel like they're going through this alone, and I just want to bring like light to the subject and awareness to the subject, because it's a horrible thing for people to have to go through. Also for kids, there's a lot of mature audience kind of stuff in this video. There's a lot of talk about drugs in this video. I'm gonna have to give some backstory to even get to what happened recently. My mom, I only really had my mom growing up. Like I never met my dad, but I've basically been raised by my grandmother. But my mom has always been a part of my life. And she's always had really, really bad substance abuse problems, and it's something that sort of I've always resented her for. Like I always hated her for it because I saw how it affected all of my family. I saw how it affected her, how it affected me, how it affected my little sisters and my grandmother, and I just hated her for it. And then when I became a mom, I sort of felt terrible for her because I saw that there was something that like she was doing that she was addicted to that caused her to lose the bonds that she had with her kids, and it just made me really, really sad for her. And I started approaching the problem more like trying to help her rather than trying to like yell at her about it. And yeah, that you can clap now. Yay! So basically, she's had really bad drug problems my whole life, and it's affected me my whole life. I never met my dad. When I was 5, she met a new guy. She would sort of just go off with him, leave me with my grandma, and just wouldn't care that she was leaving me, and I was always heartbroken about it. She was a really smart and amazing person. She had a master's degree from London School of Economics and History. She was a person that I really looked up to. She was beautiful, and she was amazing, and I loved her. I loved her so much, and I always thought that she was the best mom ever. Like, when I was 5, she went off on this business meeting, met this guy, and then never came back. She sort of just stayed off, didn't tell anyone where she was, and left me with my grandma, and then she started doing drugs with this guy. She had already been into it since she was a teenager, but it just sort of like started getting worse when she met this guy. And then she ended up marrying him. A few years later, we moved to California with him. I was 7 when we moved, and in California, they had me around this stuff all the time. I had no clue what was really going on. I was only 7, but they would be high on a bunch of different hard drugs all the time. And then they would get violent towards each other. They would fight with each other, and it was to the point of bloodshed, like terrible physical violence that I would be exposed to constantly for 3 years while I lived in this apartment with them. And also just verbal abuse. It was terrible, terrible for me to see as a little kid. I had the cops come in one time with their gun drawn, and it was just like, there was a lot of really scarring things that happened at that point in my childhood. Eventually my mom ran out of money, and we had to move back home to live with my grandmother in Maryland, where I just was for the last couple of days. And then she, like, you know, was obviously still into drugs, she's never been sober, honestly. And then she met a new guy and then started doing drugs with him. And in California, she had my little sister with her husband. And then when we moved back, she had another baby with a new guy. And she sort of neglected both of her babies. Like, she was better with them when they were younger. And then in the last couple of years. So, okay, well, my younger sister's dad died in a car accident, which I always, you know, which obviously the car accident happened because of drugs, I always say, because whether they were going to get their drugs, going from getting their drugs, or they were high, the car accident happened because of drugs, and he died, and my mom was unscratched. Like, she was completely fine. She had a second chance, and that was God giving her another chance. And so after he died, she just went, Autumn's boyfriend Isaac just stopped by to drop something off and to talk to me, and I'm a little bit better. So I felt like she had a second chance when that car accident happened and she was fine, and I felt like that should have been a wake-up call for her, and that was gonna be it. That was gonna make her stop, and that was gonna make her get better. But instead, she just went into this deep depression, and her drug problems just got worse and worse, and she couldn't even function anymore. Like, at this point, she was still sort of functioning, and she had like a job, I guess, and I mean, she's always been supported by my grandmother, and my grandmother has always raised her kids for her and supported her. She just went into this deep depression, and she left our youngest sister with me and my grandmother and sort of just went off and would meet new guys and was not herself at all. These drugs had taken over her, and it was heartbreaking for me to watch, and I resented her for it. And it just sort of made me become this like terrible teenager, and I would lash out and just like party, and it was stupid, and I don't know why that made me react that way. But when I was 16, I decided to move in with my aunt because I had this terrible fear that I was going to turn out like my mom. And a bunch of other things happened that led me to like mentally break down, including everything that was going on with my mom, and I moved in with my aunt. And I ended up getting pregnant with Laela when I moved here. I'm gonna get Laela a snack. So after I moved in with my aunt, I felt terrible because I sort of knew that I was leaving my grandmother to raise my little sisters on her own, and then also have to deal like with the emotional effects of seeing my mom the way that she was. And I felt horrible for leaving, but I just knew that I had to save myself before I could save them. And then after that, it was just my life mission to get them out of there, and that's what it's been for the last 2 years, and that's all I could think about for the last 2 years is getting my grandma out of there and getting my sisters out of there and eventually getting my mom better. And that shouldn't be my job. Like, I know it's not my job, but I feel like that's like my purpose in life. God, I'm being such a baby right now. I need to stop crying. Every time I saw my mom, she was really bad, and she worked all the time. She started working as a bartender, and she would work 6 days a week, and she would always be working, and my grandmother was always taking care of my sisters, and my mom would have no money because she would spend every cent that she earned on her drugs, and she would not pay any attention to my sisters. She would be like super messed up in front of them all the time, and they had no clue what was really going on. And she had this boyfriend that was living with them at the time who was never really into hard drugs like she was. But 2 months ago, he decided to try them because she had them. A couple nights ago, I got a call from my grandmother that my mom's boyfriend overdosed on heroin in the basement while my grandmother and my 2 little sisters were sleeping in the house above them. And they had no clue that it had happened until the next morning, and he was already gone. As soon as I found that out, I went out there immediately. My cousins all flew in from different parts of the country. They came out to help us, and we all just came in and told my grandmother, like, we need to not move on with life as if nothing happened. We can't just send the girls back to school as if nothing happened. That we need to get this house packed up, we need to sell it, we need to get rid of it, and you guys, my grandmother and my little sisters need to move here to Delaware and live with me or with my aunt. We're in the process of that right now, which is what's been going on with my life and the last couple of days and why I've been so busy. So the next morning, we took my mom to rehab, to an inpatient rehab center, and we admitted her, checked her into the rehab center, and it was the most heartbreaking thing to do. She didn't want to go, and she said, just drop me off somewhere else and don't tell anyone, no one has to know. But this was like my mission, and if I didn't accomplish that, I would never forgive myself. Like, I had to get her there, because that could have easily been her, and she got another second chance, and like, I don't know how she doesn't see how, like, she has to be here. Like, there's a reason she has to be here. she doesn't understand that she has 2 little kids that need her, a granddaughter that needs a grandma. Like, and I mean, I'm 18, I have my own life, I don't need her, but it would still be nice to have a mom. And I have so many other amazing people in my family and like mother figures, and I'm so grateful for my aunt and for my grandma, but it's so heartbreaking to see her the way that she is. It's like she's not her anymore. And she told me when I was trying to get her to get out of the car and go into the rehab, she was refusing, and I cried to her. I said, Mom, you can do this for me and for your kids. And she said, you need to let go. You just need to let go. This is all that you have left. And that's all that mattered. And now my grandma has custody of my little sisters, and they're gonna come and live with me and with my aunt while my grandma finishes up the house, and while we help her finish up the house and get it sold. And then she's probably gonna move out here to live near my aunt and I, and I'm just so happy that this has finally happened after years of trying to get this done. So thank you guys for watching this video, and I'm sorry for being a mess, and I just think this is like a really important thing to make aware to people that like this is a serious issue in this country, and there's a huge opioid epidemic. People overdose every day, and people have parents that are addicted to drugs, and drugs make you forget what's important, because all you can think about is that drugs are like that you need drugs, and you forget that your kids are important. And it's like the saddest thing. The saddest thing for families, and one person destroyed so many hearts in my family, and it's just really sad. So God, I'm being so sappy and emotional. This is so just please don't do drugs. Like, that's all that I want you guys to get out of this video, and just be grateful for your mom, and I'm gonna go and try to stop crying and being a baby. I love my little sisters, and I'm happy they're gonna be okay, and it's and I love my mom so much, so I really hope she does better and gets better, and send your prayers, and I want to be support for people that go through the same thing. So DM me on Instagram if you guys want to talk too, because I know there's so many people out there that go through this, and you would have no clue that like they look like they have a perfectly happy and normal life, but behind the scenes they have like something like this going on. So you just, you know, need to be aware that this is like a big problem, and that drugs are a big problem. And yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'm sorry that I just literally cried to you guys. That was just disgusting. But I love you so much, and I will see you guys in the next video.